Good afternoon, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program.
The Southwest TV Translator Association underwrites the news, and Dolores County Broadcasting Network provides the support for DCTV.
The News at Noon program assembles the best and most interesting news from the area, offers intriguing content for its viewers, and provides local weather for the Four Corners region. What do you think? Give us a call with news tips or topics you'd like to see covered. The number is 677-4119.
I'm Kendra Cook, and my co-hosts are Kelsey Kiesling and Jerry Tope. Let's get right to it. Here's what's happening June 22nd, 2016 from News at Noon. The heat is on. Reported in the Durango Herald, while Durango may not have set a new temperature record for Tuesday, it did tie one, coming in at 94 degrees and equaling a record set in 2012. Tuesday was the third day in a row Durango reached record temperatures. The relentless heat Monday warped the tracks of the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad near Hermosa and delayed evening trains by several hours. Passengers were bused to town, arriving at about 8:20 p.m. Everything was on schedule and everything was back to normal today, said Christian Robbins, director of marketing for the railroad. On Tuesday afternoon, after a crew tackled the problem area at 6:30 a.m., the rails expanded all along the track, just a small fraction, but it's a system, and it was looking for a weak point. The place where the warping, also called a sun kink, occurred was not random. They had been repairing a rough patch which hadn't been completed. This was a bit of a perfect storm, Robbins said. It's hot, but not Phoenix hot. It's still relatively cool at night, and that heating and cooling is part of it. It's not so hot, but it's hot enough with the repair that it caused the issue. People might need to get used to other infrastructure elements being affected by higher temperatures, he said. Power lines, highways, oil and gas rigs. If average temperatures are going up 3 to 9 degrees, it will put pressure on the infrastructure. We're just a very visible illustration of what can happen to other infrastructure. The heat also meant some passengers at the Durango-La Plata County Airport were bumped from flights to lighten the load so planes could take off. As of 7 p.m. Tuesday, Los Pinos Fire Protection District had been called out to 2 lightning strike fires, but neither was threatening structures, and some rain had fallen in the areas where the fires had started. By 8:30 p.m., at least one was extinguished. At 8 p.m., Upper Pine Fire Protection District was called to a tree fire from a lightning strike near Gem Village. And Durango Fire responded to 2 lightning strikes yesterday southwest of Weaselkin Bridge, on County Road 213, La Posta Road, and may be on private land, Hank said. Our Type 3 brush fire team has a line around one, she said, after 9 p.m., and the BIA, or Bureau of Indian Affairs, Type 6 team has a line around the other. This is why we have held our wildland fire crews in district instead of sending them to other fires in the area, because it makes the initial attack possible really quickly. Stay tuned for Jerry's extensive weather report coming up later in the broadcast.
According to the Durango Herald, officials are finessing La Plata County's first ordinance to address rural barking dogs and figuring out how to effectively enforce it. County staff presented a draft of the new law to commissioners in April, and they met Tuesday with leaders from Animal Control, the La Plata County Sheriff's Office, and County Court to hear changes proposed by Animal Control, including the terms for filing a complaint. The proposed code would deem it unlawful for an owner to keep a dog that disturbs its neighbors by making loud, habitual, and persistent barking, howling, yelping, or whining noises continually for 20 minutes during the day, 15 minutes at night, or a cumulative 90 minutes throughout a 24-hour period. Proposed changes include encouraging, rather than requiring, complainants to supply demonstrative evidence of the nuisance dog. One of the things under consideration is, does it make sense to require evidence, County Attorney Kathleen Lyon said. The concern from the Humane Society is that having to dedicate an officer to looking at footage would be time-consuming. Other proposed changes include change the definition of a dog at large to include when the animal is unsupervised and unrestrained on or off the owner's property. Do not require the complainant to provide his or her name for the first warning administered to an offender. Account for dogs barking at wildlife. Tighten the definition of working dog to specify that such an animal is actively working the owner's livestock by controlling the movement of the livestock. The last was proposed because animal control has encountered offenders who claim they own working dogs as a means of avoiding prosecution.
In a follow-up to the phone and internet outage report from last Friday, the Durango Herald reports that the widespread phone and internet outages demonstrated a weakness in regional fiber optic connectivity, especially for 911 dispatch centers. Dispatch centers in La Plata, Archuleta, and Montezuma counties, and in Ignacio and Telluride were all affected by the outage caused by a construction crew that cut a fiber optic line in Cortez. Many calls had to be routed through the dispatch center in Montrose from Friday evening through early morning Saturday. The damage to the fiber optic line likely also caused the cell phone outages across the region because cell phone towers rely on fiber optic lines. The director of the Durango La Plata Emergency Communications Center, Phil Campbell, thought the system had redundancies built in. CenturyLink spokeswoman Shelley Bailey Silverman declined to answer questions about why the fiber optic line damage affected such a large area. In Archuleta County, 911 phone calls were functional, but not all calls to the non-emergency dispatch number were coming through. Callers often use this number, even in emergencies, said Carl Nevitt, Archuleta County Consolidated Emergency Communication Director. Like Campbell, Nevitt thought the system was protected from this kind of outage. Campbell believed there were 2 sets of lines for 911 calls, 4 routed through Grand Junction and 4 through Montrose. This redundancy was set up to prevent an outage like the one that happened on Friday. Campbell plans to take the concerns from regional dispatch managers to the Colorado Public Utilities Commission 911 Task Force. Campbell sits on the board along with a representative from CenturyLink, and he expects that person to address technical questions about the outage. The company did communicate with Campbell as required during the service disruption. But he wants to have a deeper discussion with the board about redundancy. However, a quick fix without new infrastructure may not be possible. In these kinds of outages, routing calls to Montrose can cause delays because dispatchers must relay information back to the law enforcement agency with the outage, and it also requires more staff. Despite this challenge, all the emergency calls were addressed during the outage. Miriam Gillow-Wiles, the executive director of the council, said the outage also alerted the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments to the deficiency in the fiber optic systems. She said governments didn't know this was a weakness. She said companies are not required to disclose the location of fiber optic lines and the lease agreements to governments. The council will be looking into the outage as part of a larger report on the need for enhanced regional fiber optic infrastructure. The report is expected to be released in the fall.
According to the Cortez Journal, the Cedar Mesa Ranchers subdivision north of Mesa Verde National Park has a network of private roads residents fear could be utilized by oil and gas companies accessing federal minerals on adjacent BLM land. The private red-signed roads are maintained by the subdivision's homeowners association. However, the subdivision plat signed off on by Montezuma County long ago, states the private roads are also designated for public access. Residents are concerned about the impacts of oil and gas development minerals under the subdivision and on surrounding BLM land. The most convenient access to BLM lands is through the subdivision. Our roads are not designed to handle industrial truck traffic, said Cedar Mesa resident Duncan Rose. We're not trying to stop oil and gas development, just regulate it. If there is an accident, who is liable? He asked the county commissioners for input on how to regulate oil and gas truck traffic in county subdivisions. The county responded that because the roads are private in the Cedar Mesa area, the issue is beyond the county control. Green signed roads are owned and maintained by the county. It was suggested that designating Road 35 through the Cedar Mesa subdivision as a green signed road would give the county more regulatory control over its uses and maintenance in regards to industrial traffic. County Road Supervisor Rob Engelhart stated that making it a county road would also require additional costs to maintain. It was noted that through the lease permit stipulation process, the BLM can place reasonable restrictions on lease-related truck traffic within the Cedar Mesa subdivision. The subdivision is the largest in the county with 139 lots and 93 homes. Its covenants ban oil and gas development within the neighborhood and gives the county the authorization to enforce the ban. But it was questioned whether that would withstand a legal challenge from oil and gas companies seeking access to federally leased minerals.
Reported in the Cortez Journal. As the summer heats up, so does the political scene nationally in a presidential year. However, most people will tell you that the state and county positions are the ones that you individually can make a difference with, as their immediate policies and legislating affects you directly on the local level. In the 3rd Congressional District, the Republican incumbent Scott Tipton is being challenged by a 27-year-old recent law school graduate for a primary runoff, that according to the Cortez Journal. Alex Beinstein is facing an uphill battle ahead of the June 28th primary, despite making the ballot with 40% of the delegate vote at the April District Assembly. Incumbent Tipton, age 59, is well established, with powerful supporters along the sprawling district, which includes most of the western slope and the southern portions of the eastern plains. Tipton has fought for rural issues, including protecting farmers and ranchers from federal regulations, such as a water rule that aims to expand oversight over smaller bodies of water, and holding the EPA accountable in the wake of last year's catastrophic Gold King mine spill. He also has the advantage of name recognition. Tipton says of his young aspiring opponent, "We take every election seriously. What differences he's trying to bring up, people know where we stand on those issues." Beinstein has painted Tipton as a politician who is in the hands of big donors, who has lost his way when it comes to the Constitution and preserving conservative values. Behind the scenes, the Tipton campaign has not given much credence to Beinstein's long-shot effort. They've been looking ahead to the November election, in which Democrat Gail Schwartz has vowed to unseat the third-term congressman. Schwartz is not facing a primary. She reported raising more than $350,000 since announcing her candidacy on April 8th. Beinstein, with only about $4,060 in reported contributions compared to Tipton's $487,074, says voters should not count him out. He lives in his parents' home in Carbondale, and he has relied on support from family and friends. But Beinstein's shoestring budget hasn't stopped him from traveling the district to speak to voters. Beinstein supports a tariff to create jobs, as well as decreasing corporate taxes. Beinstein has also focused on international issues, specifically the United States' somewhat friendly relationship with Saudi Arabia, which he believes has led to the growth of violent extremist groups. Tipton agrees that terrorism is an important issue, but he said voters in the district are focused on challenges at home. Tipton appears to have a sharp focus on jobs. "The issues that the people are bringing up to me in our congressional district are about their families," Tipton said. "They're worried about their jobs. If they have one, they're worried about getting a job."
According to the Durango Herald, delays in renewing medical marijuana cards in New Mexico have grown so long that some seriously ill patients are resorting to purchasing marijuana on the black market, according to some patients and advocates. The New Mexico Department of Health says the backlog was caused by a surge in demand from new applicants, the Santa Fe New Mexican reported. Although state law gives the department 30 days to approve or deny an application, spokesman Kenny Vigil said by email that the current wait is about 40 to 50 days. Vigil didn't respond to an interview request from the newspaper, but he said in a written statement that the department is working hard to get caught up. The agency purchased 2 new printers, hired 2 new employees and 2 primary employees, and is considering more hires. Employees also have had to work 6 days a week. Vigil said the goal is to get caught up this summer. Meanwhile, patients don't want to purchase marijuana on the black market, said Empowering Medical Patients and Treatment CEO Nicole Morales. Jaylene Cost, office manager for the Santa Fe-based medical cannabis dispensary New Mexican Natural Medicine, said when she submitted her renewal application May 7th, she was told it would take at least 60 days. The dispensary cannot sell cannabis to patients with expired cards, she said, which means they can either go without or purchase pot illegally. Most people are understanding, said Cost, but a lot of these people are cancer patients who are going through a 90-day treatment protocol, which can get interrupted by a lag in card renewals. And now, here's our weather report.
As per usual, our regional forecast at the beginning of our weather report takes a detailed look at our own region's weather. As a reminder for river rats, flows from local waterways will be high, fast, and cold through the coming week as the last and fast snowmelt occurs. The high-pressure system that has been working us over with the hots and dries since late last week has been spreading its wings and now reaches from coast to coast over the southern half of the country. It has what is called an anticyclonic circulation over western Texas and New Mexico. The result is that there is a small amount of moisture moving north on the western side of this clockwise motion along the New Mexico-Arizona border. This moisture is just now reaching us here in western Colorado and eastern Utah. So the isolated showers that have been hitting the hills east of us are getting reinforcement from that new moisture and will spread their coverage through this evening and afternoon as well. It is still the mountains that will see the most activity, but the stronger cells will be capable of brief heavy rain and strong and gusty winds. Maybe we'll get lucky and get a brief hit. Cross your fingers with me and see. Again, dry lightning will be a concern, but basically in the summer here, every bolt has a chance of starting a fire, as Kendra's said. Also affecting things for our region's northern parts is the Pacific Northwest closed low. That's the second front in a row to sweep eastward along the U.S.-Canadian border. Where this low and the southern high meet will continue to influence wind and moisture activities and heat circulation as well by pushing our high to the east. By Friday, winds should take on a more westerly direction, especially late Friday night and Saturday. Late Friday afternoon is the strongest wind expectation as the high reclaims its territory, and the existing hot, dry status fire weather concerns will significantly rise both days, but especially Saturday. After the influence of this Pac Northwest system passes, the southern ridge is forecast to build up again. It will then drag a weak flow of subtropical moisture into our area early in the week and through at least till Tuesday. So the same pattern we saw for the first half of this week should be fairly descriptive of at least the first half of next week as well. As you know, El Nino effects ended with a fizzle in April, and La Nina effects were forecast to begin, and the patterns we've been seeing are textbook for that scenario. A front traveling in the mid-Atlantic states and the central high plains will continue through Thursday and into Friday. It's still causing waves of showers and thunderstorms along and near the front, and will continue in parts of the northern plains and upper Mississippi Valley to the Ohio Valley and mid-Atlantic through Thursday. Tomorrow morning, showers and thunderstorms will end over the northern plains and upper Mississippi Valley, but will continue in the evening over the Ohio Valley and mid-Atlantic area. The lower Great Lakes into northern New England will see rain until late tonight. Showers and thunderstorms over parts of the central and southern Rockies and central and southern high plains continue this afternoon and evening and into Thursday. The flow off the western Gulf of Mexico is still being drawn to the east and will continue giving showers and thunderstorms to the western and central Gulf Coast and southern Florida until at least tomorrow evening. For our 5-day forecast, I'll use today. It's almost identical to the last 10 days. It will likely remain quite similar from now till the end of August if La Nina holds fast. The only question is, what will the summer's highest temperatures end up being? So, highs will be all in the lower half of the 90s and lows close to 40 degrees lower at the lower half of the 50s. That makes it interesting when 9 degrees makes railroad track differences. 40-degree differences are pretty extreme, aren't they? As summer wears on, we should at some point start to see nights get into the lower 60s. Take fire prevention seriously and stay safe. And if you're a curious or fervent follower of local weather history, consider giving me a call. I'd like to see if our observations and expectations are similar or whatever. Now back to the news.
According to the Durango Herald, the city of Durango has issued a verbal warning to Hillcrest Golf Club for operating noisy equipment before 7 a.m., a violation of city code. The warning stems from a resident's complaint about a screeching lawnmower or some other piece of equipment being used before 7 a.m. last week, said Steve Barkley, code enforcement officer for the city. According to the city code, noise levels cannot exceed 50 decibels in residential areas between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. 50 decibels is about equal to the volume of someone speaking loudly. Golf course superintendent Ken Kirby said this is the first noise complaint about summer operations in the 30 years he has worked at Hillcrest. He also received a complaint last winter about a snowcat grooming trails early in the morning for cross-country skiers. Crews typically get started about 5:30 or 6 a.m. during the summer, he said. If crews must postpone work until later in the morning, it could impact play and overall quality of the course. Hillcrest is uncertain where the complaint came from. The person who made it apparently gave a fictitious address but claimed to live in the Hillcrest estates overlooking the course. Kirby said he's skeptical about whether it was golf course equipment the resident heard. He doesn't have any machinery that creates a screeching sound, he said. John Vickers, head golf course professional, said the staff is researching the issue and working on a solution.
The Cortez Dolores Mancos Journal reported an article about recycling. That last week, the Dolores Town Board voted against helping the Four Corners Recycling Initiative pay for additional pickups of a recycling bin on the school campus. Low commodity prices of recyclables and increased fees from haulers to pick up and empty the bins have hamstrung the group. They were requesting funding for the town to help cover increased costs and pay for additional pulls. Despite the challenging economics, recycling's popularity has not gone down in Dolores. However, because the bin is not emptied enough, it has a tendency to overflow. The town board has been upset about the eyesore and blowing debris when recyclables are left on the ground after the bin is full. Four Corners Recycling Board member Scott Clow said the group is negotiating with a new hauler who is offering a more affordable rate for pickup. If successful, they would be able to afford additional pulls and prevent overflowing, he said. Clow also said the bin will be relocated to a less visible location from its current location in the parking lot along Colorado Highway 145, but the new location has not been announced. The locations that the Four Corners Recycling Initiative have launched include Mancos Public School System at 355 Grand Avenue in Mancos, the Dolores Public Lands Office on Highway 184, Dolores County, Montezuma County Landfill on County Road F, and next to Dolores High School. They are a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to promote sustainable living through waste diversion and recycling, education and outreach, and economic opportunities without increasing the tax burden on those we serve. To find out more about the potential of recycling, visit them online to cornersrecycles.org.
According to the Cortez Journal, Mancos School Board members approved on first reading Monday an updated school drug and alcohol policy for extracurricular activities. There have been a number of drug-related discipline issues in the district in the past 2 years, according to the policy. Students wishing to participate in a school athletics program, along with a parent or guardian, must consent to drug testing, the policy states. The testing may be administered by random selection. If a student refuses to be tested when selected, he or she will be considered to have tested positive. If a student tests positive for the presence of illegal drugs, he or she will be asked to provide another sample as soon as possible, which will be submitted to a testing lab. If the second sample tests negative for the presence of illegal drugs, no further action will be taken. If the second sample tests positive, the student's parent or guardian will be notified, and a meeting will be scheduled with the student, parent or guardian, and school officials. For the first offense, the student will be suspended from participation in all extracurricular activities for 15 days. For a student's second offense in the same school year, he or she will be suspended from participation in all extracurricular activities for the remainder of the school year. Board members will take a second and final vote on the policy at the board's next meeting, July 18th.
A Seniors Matters moment, taking a look at what's important and happening for our extended family of elders in our community. Today, we dropped in on the first annual Senior Shindig in Dove Creek. The Dove Creek Volunteer Fire Department, in partnership with the Dolores County Senior Services, puts together an afternoon of fun. Free for seniors and their families, everyone pitched in to convert the firehouse into a party house. A beautiful day in early June, friends joined in from all across town and the county. The dedicated hosts provided a big circle of festive tables, allowing for ample dance floor space in the center. There were door prizes and a special feature, a free family photo with 5x7 prints to share. That's good. 1, 2, 3. All right, one more time for a big smile, baby. 1, 2, 3. A prayer of thanks before dinner.
Amen.
And plenty of oldies but goodies on the now old-fashioned record player. The vinyl LP discs offered country and western, big band and swing.
So anyway, we sure are glad you all came.
Nita Perkett, Director of DC Senior Services. All of the staff and volunteers worked hard to coordinate the event. Barbecued pulled pork was smoking good, fresh from L&M Meats at the Sinclair, with plenty of side dishes, cool drinks, and dessert to round it out. Everyone is looking forward to next year's shindig. This is Kendra Cook reporting for Seniors Matters.
And now the Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup for the week of June 13th through the 19th. A deputy stopped a tractor trailer who ran the port of entry and turned it around. A local resident reported an open door on a building in town. A deputy checked and secured the building. A deputy responded to a request for assistance in unlocking a vehicle. Vehicle unlock was successful. The sheriff's office dispatched the fire department to a grass fire. The sheriff's office dispatched the fire department to a chicken coop fire. A deputy was dispatched to Highway 491 west of town to herd a group of cattle off of the roadway. Many thanks to Jeremy Redshaw for his assistance. An out-of-county resident reported a careless and unsafe driver. The driver was stopped by a deputy and ticketed. A county resident called complaining about traffic and speeds at the intersection of Road H.6 and Highway 491. That's it for this week's Roundup. Stay tuned next week for more updates.
And in today's High Country happenings, I wanted to focus on two events for this weekend. Reported in the San Juan Reporter, they remind us that it is that time again, the annual Dynamite Shoot at Rattlesnake Ranch in West LaSalle, Utah. That will be this Saturday, June 25th. Shooting, and if you are lucky, kabooming is to commence at 8 a.m. This is a sharing event, as always. You need not be present to enjoy the kabooming. It can be heard in town a few miles away. That's okay, they say. We are used to kabooming, especially on Saturday mornings, as a lot of folks are out and about shooting the ever-increasing population of prairie dogs. They are sort of used to the noise. They noted that several families came during the year just to shoot this nasty little destructive varmint. Back to the Dynamite Shoot, which is a fun fundraiser for the local fire department. These folks need all the support they can get, and a big shout out for the volunteer work that they do in being on call and ready to roll at a moment's notice, besides all of the training they do to keep certifications current. Concessions will be available after 11 a.m. for your dining enjoyment. There will also be a rifle raffle, say that 10 times fast. Tickets are $10 each and can be purchased from any San Juan County, Utah Fire Department volunteer, I believe, or they can shoot you in the right direction. You need not be present to win, but you must be able to pass a federal background test. For more information, call Crystal Johnson at 435-260-0861. And I'm wearing this t-shirt today to remind everyone of the upcoming now 7th annual Pick and Hoe Poker Run. This year for motorcycle, bikers, rat rods, jeeps, and cars of any kind. There's a pre-registration on Friday evening at the Dove Creek Sinclair from 6 to 7. And also Saturday morning, June 25th, the day of the ride, starting at 7:30 a.m. with coffee and donuts provided by the Sinclair. The ride starts out at 9 a.m., leaving from the Sinclair on a route that is still being worked out due to some road construction issues, and arriving at the end at the State Line Bar and Grill for the final card draw on the poker hands. The buy-in is $35, which includes the exclusive yearly t-shirt. There will be new decks used at every draw and cash for first and second place winners. They are also giving away a lot of great prizes, including a trip to Casino del Sol Resort in Tucson, Arizona, science discounts on tattoos, and more. State Line is also offering an afternoon beer pong tournament that day, along with no cover for the live music of Little Brother Band, which will start around 6 p.m. It should be another great poker run. And on the official Facebook page for the Pick and Hoe, today's update is that there are only 10 days until the celebration begins. July 3rd is a fun-filled day with 3-on-3 sand volleyball chaired by our wonderful Robin Laws and Eric Laws, with the high school basketball team helping. Starts at 9 o'clock, and if you would rather throw a horseshoe, this tournament starts at 10 o'clock the same day in the pits, and an awesome chairman, Billy Spitzer, sure he'll get a little help from Marty Banks Spitzer, will be handling that event. And check back in next Talk Tuesday live when we will bring you more pre-coverage of this year's event, and pick up this year's Somewhere Special newspaper that should be available for free all around town by Thursday. There are tons of interesting articles presented by community members who recall how life was like as their families homesteaded the area. This year will mark 61 straight years of a fantastic July 4th and community celebration. Hope to see you there. All of the happening segment is posted on our DCTV News at Noon Facebook page. If you have an event, you can email us at dcbnnews@gmail.com or call the station at 677-4119 and we'll be sure to get it on air.
Thanks for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon Monday through Wednesday and rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. on Channel 32.1 Dolores County, on Channel 30.4 in Montezuma County, and their cable Channel 5.
And tell a friend and watch the broadcast replayed on YouTube. Search up DCTV News at Noon, and please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
For Kendra Cook, Jerry Tope, and all those who are working to bring you DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kelsey Kiesling. See you next time.